It's the Dark Reading News Desk. I'm Terry Sweeney, contributing editor to Dark Reading, and I'm joined today by Brian Johnson, CEO and founder of DivvyCloud. Brian, thanks for joining us here on News Desk.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Cloud's everywhere. Cloud's ubiquitous. Cloud apparently does everything, including offering some security challenges. Can you talk about some of the biggest security challenges that customers are up against today?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we often talking about enterprises and just companies in general struggling with cloud. We talk about security. That's certainly an important part of that. But I want to take a step back and actually highlight the fact that this is actually a large business transformation for these organizations. They're going through a huge challenge where they've got a large number of people touching cloud, a lot more resources in cloud than they're used to having, and changes are happening much more frequently because of ephemeral compute and CI/CD. That has led to this sort of massive business transformation problem they're dealing with, and one of the outcomes of that is they're really struggling with security and how security impacts that business transformation, because they don't want to take cloud away from engineers necessarily who are out doing their job. They want to be able to let them go and innovate and do really cool things. But engineers aren't always trained to be the best security professionals, and they certainly didn't happen overnight. And so how does a business really deal with innovation in cloud as well as enforce security? And that's certainly an area we focus on.
But I think there's also an assumption that, hey, we're effectively doing some outsourcing here, including our security. What do you mean it's not secure? What are we paying for? I mean, there's that conundrum to deal with as well.
Absolutely, and I think that it's a little bit of a misnomer, right? Because you think, oh, we're just going to go to cloud and all security will be taken care of for us. And the cloud provider certainly will provide you some level of security you've had to deal with before. Things like you don't have to worry about your data center being secure. You don't have to worry about the physical hardware being locked down and secure and all those different things. But you do need to worry about the security of your own applications and the assets that you use in the cloud. That security the onus is on you as the company or enterprise that's using cloud. And even, I'll take it a step further, the cloud providers themselves are willing to provide some level of security and guarantees, but they don't really want to be in the game of saying, yes, if you use us, we 100% assure you that you will be secure.
It's kind of weird where they draw the line, and they all draw the line somewhere.
Yep.
But yeah, okay. With that in mind, there is this false dichotomy that pervades all of IT, not just security around, or not just cloud, of customers really need to balance the trade-offs between innovation and security. Is that really true for cloud? I mean, it's becoming part of a dominant narrative. Sure. What do you say?
Look, I think that as security professionals, we can't prevent the organization from innovating. That would be awful. We need to find ways to balance innovation with really good security. Mm-hmm. And what we believe ultimately is that if security can bring this story to the engineering teams, and they can sort of shift left, if it were, into the engineering organization and train engineering as they do enforcement, then you can have both things. You can have really rapid innovation with really strong security, but it does mean that the relationship between engineering and security needs to evolve, and it needs to be on the onus of the security professionals to come to the developer, not the other way around, which has been the past, where security has sort of been the gatekeepers along with IT.
Well, so it strikes me that what we're maybe talking about here as a subtext is really control. Like who's going to run it, and cloud seems to necessarily require that the control be shared.
Yes, absolutely, and I think that cloud in particular, it's not only just shared of control, but it's also shared of trust. And I think at the end of the day, the security organization is trusting the engineering organization because they have to. The company is going to be out there taking products to market. Mm-hmm. Their competitors are going to be innovating in cloud very, very rapidly. It's not an option for us to put that genie back in the bottle. So we have to trust the engineers to go and develop and innovate. But the engineering organization needs to also trust the security organization that they're not just trying to get in the way. They're literally trying to bring 20, 30 years of knowledge that we have built about how to secure infrastructure and applications and sort of shove it into the brains of thousands of people who are trying to build applications on a daily basis.
Okay. How does DivvyCloud then enter this conversation with its own innovations?
Absolutely. So what we focus on is helping large enterprises innovate and sophisticated mid-market companies innovate. And we do that by saying, look, your engineers have to keep doing what they're doing, but you need a system that watches sort of what they're doing and identifies the problems so you can see where your holes actually are, where your security issues are. But it's not enough just to give a report, because the number of resources and problems and challenges you're going to have are going to be thousands of different errors or security problems or compliance issues, and those issues are going to change so rapidly that a run book or a traditional SOC is not going to be able to take you to the next step with just reporting. You need to use automation to remediate those issues in real time. Because really what we're talking about here is a signal and noise issue. You have a tremendous amount of noise the security team's having to deal with. Like I said, a lot more resources, a lot more changes, a lot more people doing it,
Sure.
and no ability to understand where they need to be paying attention to. So they need to use automation, and which something that DivvyCloud provides, to reduce that noise down so they can get focused on the signal and use the security professionals to focus on the 10% of things you can't automate.
Okay. So you're also fond of talking about the 3 pillars of security. Automation is mixed in there, but tell us more about how you view that.
Yeah, absolutely. So automation is something in the security industry we've always wanted to do. Even back 15 years ago or 20 years ago when we were running in data centers, we wanted to do this level of automation, but the infrastructure didn't support it. It didn't have the API layers and all the different ways to interact with the infrastructure in a way where you could actually take meaningful automated action. In today's world, with the API layers being available to us, the different cloud providers, we can actually affect change and do it in real time. And one of the things we learned over the last 7 years of doing this is that real-time remediation is absolutely essential because you need a feedback loop to the engineer. It's not enough to just correct the issue. You need to correct the issue and then talk to the engineer, either through a notification or whatever it might be, about why it was a problem. Because at the end of the day, utilizing automation and solving for this business transformation problem is really about 2 things. It's about securing your infrastructure, absolutely, but it's also about training your staff on how to use cloud properly. The way you do that has to be, that feedback loop has to be as real time as possible. If an engineer makes a mistake and our software corrects it, it needs to happen immediately so the engineer can sort of make the connection. If it happens 48 hours later, the engineer may have forgotten the resource even existed and doesn't care anymore.
Or 200 days later. I mean, you hear these stories of these intruders skulking around networks undetected for
Absolutely.
200 days or longer. I mean, that feels incredible, even now.
The scariest thing about being compromised is recognizing that there's something worse than being compromised. It's being compromised not knowing it. And that is most situations occur that way. And one of the things that we oftentimes encourage our customers to do is run an exercise with some of their engineers. Find a safe place to, like a sandbox where you don't mind something going really wrong or being compromised, whatever it might be, and have them spin up an instance, a server, and let the password be root to get logged in, and time it. See how long it takes before that system gets popped. Sometimes that's an eye-opening experience because people don't necessarily recognize how vast the network is out there of people who are scanning and looking for ways in. And over the last 15 years, traditional exploit development had to get more and more sophisticated. But now with cloud, people are making configuration mistakes. It's the path of least resistance to just scan the infrastructure until I find an S3 bucket that's open and pull the data out. That's trivial compared to what we had to do for the last 15 years. So sometimes just getting people's eyes open to the scale of the attackers out there is really meaningful.
Okay, so let's test your forecasting powers
Sure.
as you scan the landscape and maybe even look over the horizon in 1 to 2 years. Like, what do you see coming threat-wise? I mean, what are things that cloud customers in particular are going to need to prepare themselves for?
I think we're going to be met with a very unfortunate situation. Cloud-based identity access management that occurs inside the cloud, is going to be the next massive thing we have to deal with. In cloud today, let me back up. Identity, oftentimes people think about it as just being a person, like Joe Schmo or Jill has access to this resource. Cloud-based identity, when you think about the cloud, everything in the cloud now has an identity. You have Lambda methods that have permissions granted directly to a small piece of Python code. You have databases that have granted permissions all to this identity access layer. And that, I think there's like 7,000 plus permissions inside of Amazon that you can stitch together any different way you want. And so if you take that and spread across all 3 cloud providers as well, you just have this massive attack surface of areas where people can do privilege escalation and all sorts of different things. Misconfiguration of infrastructure is a real big problem. It's going to pale in comparison to what we're about to see when it comes to identity. And you won't always do is look back in history to see that this is going to be the case. We've played this game before. We used to have Telnet. It used to be a clear text protocol. We learned that's not a great thing to do, so we created SSH. And then you start to see this, that's like I'll use that as an example of misconfiguration, like the level of sophistication. But as we continue to go forward, now we see man-in-the-middle attacks and all these different things. So this tit-for-tat process that we go through in security, It's playing out in cloud right now, and we are still in the first inning. We literally are dealing with the lowest of low problems to deal with.
Sure.
And now, moving forward, we're going to start seeing more and more complex attacks.
I mean, cloud allows us to do so much more exponentially, including attack it and exploit it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the thing is you're starting to see centralizing of assets. Everyone knows you're going to be in either one of the 4 major providers out there. We will start seeing tools being developed to make that process easier based on the cloud provider you're in. And that tool development can oftentimes be a really good indicator of where things are going.
So how might customers start planning for these inevitable attacks or challenges on the horizon?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is to first take a step back and recognize that what you're going through as an industry, as a sort of a company or as an enterprise, whatever, is not a technology problem. This is a business transformation. So the moment you've had that realization, it allows you to broaden your horizon a little bit about how you think about solving that problem. And you have to think about re-implementing security as a different apparatus. Sometimes we see it in some organizations as like Cloud Center of Excellence or DevSecOps or different elements like that. So you've got to build the team inside your organization that's going to be the experts in this kind of security, which is different than traditional security. Doing analysis on network traffic is different than cloud security we face today. So building that organization is definitely key to that. Getting comfortable with the idea that you're going to leverage automation to do some things that may have scared you before are going to be commonplace in the future. Sure. And so, and also, going into it with eyes wide open. You're going to be multi-cloud. It's going to happen. So how do we build a strategy, and how do you build that strategy moving forward? I think that's really the first step in solving this problem.
Wow, it's really, really eye-opening. Brian, thanks for joining us on News Desk today.
My pleasure, thank you.
We've been talking with Brian Johnson of DivvyCloud. This has been Terry Sweeney for Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us.